This is probably the last great Slayer album. Everything after this is just okay. At least that's my opinion. And today I'm talking about Seasons in the Abyss by Slayer, which is probably my favorite album by the band. It was released on October 9th, 1990 through Deaf American Records. It is celebrating 35 years now. The band started recording the album in March of 1990 at Hit City West and Hollywood Sound. They ended their recording sessions at the record plant in Los Angeles, California in June of 1990. This is also the last album with the original lineup with Dave Lombardo until he returned to the band for their 2006 album, Christ Illusion. It's an interesting album because the sound is a combination of their slower sound from South of Heaven from 1988 and their thrashier sound from Rain and Blood from 1986. So it was like the best of both worlds. The album has some great songs, so let's talk about them. The album opens with War Ensemble. This was the first song that I heard from the album. It was the first single. They start off with a very fast and heavy song. It was written by Kerry King with lyrics written by Jeff Hanneman and Tom Araya. I forgot to mention this before, but the album was produced by Rick Rubin with co-production and mixing by Andy Wallace and Slayer themselves. The song is one of the many songs that deals with the horrors of war. This one also focuses on the psychological manipulation aspect of it as well. Here's some more interesting trivia. This was one of their first music videos. Back in the 80s, they tried to avoid making videos for MTV, but eventually they made two of them for this album. I guess they had to follow Metallica after they made their first music video with one, which was 2 years prior to this. They followed this up with another song about war called Blood Red. This was written by Jeff Hanneman with lyrics by Tom Araya. The song is more about the use of force against civilians and the bloodshed that can come from a war machine that seizes civil liberties. In general, the song is a message about violence. It's one of those tracks that has a slower groove, maybe something that would have fit on the South of Heaven album. Then after the song is Spirit in Black, which was also written by Jeff Hanneman, but this time the lyrics were written by Kerry King. The song has more of that classic Slayer vibe in terms of lyrics. It's about sin, eternal damnation, and the descent into hell. It's also one of the faster tracks in the style of Rain and Blood. The song has some of the best drumming by Dave Lombardo, as well as an awesome guitar solo by Kerry King. Then there is Expendable Youth, written by Kerry King with lyrics by Tom Araya. This one always reminded me of the Metallica song Disposable Heroes. I guess the name is kind of similar, but I've always thought this song was about war, but after doing some research, the song is actually about gang violence, specifically in Los Angeles. But there's also a war theme in the neighborhoods compared to battlefields. It's also one of the slower tracks with more of a groove-oriented guitar riff. As you can see, they seem to be alternating the faster songs with the slower ones, but that's not always the case, as the next one is also one of the slower ones, but also one of the key tracks about a serial killer who was just the subject matter of a recent Netflix show. The song I'm talking about is Dead Skin Mask. The song is written by Jeff Hanneman with lyrics by Tom Araya. The song is about Ed Gein, who is a famous serial killer and the inspiration of classic movies, including Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. The Netflix show I was talking about was the third season of the series Monster about Ed Gein. The song is about the things he did, like digging up dead bodies and creating objects with their parts. There's a part of the song where you hear a voice saying lines like, "Hello, Mr. Gein," and "Let me out of here, Mr. Gein." It's actually one of the roadies' voices that was sped up to sound like a child, although I always thought it sounded more like a woman. But this part of the song evokes images of Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs when he had that girl trapped in that big hole. I remember the song well. It's one of the slower songs. I used to have this guitar tab book when I was learning guitar back when I was a teenager. I remember trying to play this. The guitar riff is actually similar to Slayer's Raining Blood, but just played a lot slower. But anyway, this song closes out side one. Side two opens with a fast-paced thrash song called Hallowed Point. This had lyrics written by Tom Araya and Jeff Hanneman with music by Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King. Songs about the destructive power of hollow point bullets, which are designed to expand upon impact and create a larger wound category. Song's lyrics paint a picture of the physical effects that are inflicted upon the target with this type of ammunition. This is also one of the faster paced songs on the album. They slow down the pace again with the track Skeletons of Society. This one has the music and lyrics written by Kerry King. The song's about society in general and touches on themes of war, murder, and corruption. After this is the song Temptation. This was also written entirely by Kerry King. It's a classic Slayer song about hell and the devil. The idea behind this one is that the devil is always trying to tempt people and bargain for their soul. Lyrics describe the temptations offered and consequences of giving in. This also has a vocal technique used by Tom Araya called dual-wielding vocals, where it appears he is talking to himself, and that's why it sounds like he's repeating the lines in the verses. The album has 2 more songs. The next one's called Born of Fire. This one has lyrics written by Kerry King with music by Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King. I found this one to be interesting because it was written to be an instrumental, but Kerry King wrote the lyrics at the last minute. Another song with satanic themes and rebellion against organized religion. The album ends with the title track, one of their most popular songs from the album. The song is a mix of tempos where it starts out slow, but then has some faster parts. The song is about a world in decay. It talks about the unforeseen and destructive future, which is personified by the idea of an abyss. There have also been different fan interpretations of the lyrics, such as it being about Egypt and the mummification of the pharaohs and their journey to the afterlife. It's also due to the music video being filmed in Cairo, Egypt at the Gizu Plaza, which shows the band playing near the pyramids and the Sphinx. The idea behind the band playing in Egypt was from Rick Rubin. The video was shot in 1990, which was also a time of heightened global tension just before the Gulf War. According to the band, they had to gain access to restricted areas by using unconventional means, whatever that means. The music video was also played on MTV's Headbangers Ball almost every weekend. I remember watching it back then. It's also one of the 2 videos from this album. But like I said, this was the last of the great Slayer albums, and they spent the rest of the 90s releasing albums that were just okay, but none of them were great. The next album came out 4 years later, which was the biggest gap between albums at the time. The album was Divine Intervention, released in 1994. The album was pretty good, but I'll have to do a full video on it someday, as there were some lineup changes. They released the covers albums of songs after that by crossover thrash and hardcore punk bands called Undisputed Attitude. Another one that's not too bad, but more of a hardcore album with 1 new Slayer song. And they ended the 90s with probably their most controversial album called Diabolus in Musica, which is their attempt at groove metal and nu metal, as those were the popular styles of metal at the time and what most thrash bands were trying to do. This album is actually not too bad, but I'll have to do a full video on it someday. But that is all. Check out my video on Slayer South of Heaven. I'll stick it right over there. I did it a few years ago when it celebrated an anniversary. Thanks for watching. Please like this video. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. I will see you in the next one.